Sometimes silence speaks louder than words, but when you finally speak again, it should be unforgettable. Today, we're talking about the perfect time to break no contact and how to do it in a way that flips the script and makes them chase you. Don't mistake loneliness for readiness. The biggest mistake people make after a breakup is confusing emotional pain with emotional progress. When you're hurting, it's natural to want comfort, and your first instinct might be to reach out to the person who once gave you that sense of safety. But this is exactly why breaking no contact too soon is one of the worst decisions you can make. The perfect time to break no contact is when your emotions are no longer controlled by the presence or absence of that person. Healing isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about reaching a point where your peace no longer depends on their validation, attention, or apology. True healing takes time, but more importantly, it takes intention. No contact isn't just a strategy to make someone miss you. It's a strategy to rediscover yourself. It's a sacred space where you get to rebuild your identity, reflect on what the relationship taught you, and correct the emotional imbalances that led you to tolerate less than you deserved. If you're still overthinking their last words, if you're replaying arguments in your head, if you're stalking their social media hoping to find a sign, they still have power over you. And when you break no contact in that state, you hand that power right back to them. You're not reaching out from strength. You're reaching out from a wound. See, when you're emotionally dependent, you tend to reach out for the wrong reasons. You want closure. You want to remind them of your worth. You want to say the things you didn't say before. But that's not empowerment. That's desperation disguised as bravery. When you're truly healed, you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone, not even to them. Your worth becomes non-negotiable. Your silence isn't a tactic. It becomes a reflection of your standards. And if you decide to speak again, it's not because you need something from them. It's because you have something to say that aligns with your growth. This is where emotional neutrality becomes a sign of readiness. When you can think of them without emotional chaos, no anger, no longing, no sadness, you've reached a place of control. That's when you know it's safe to engage again. Not to fall back into the same patterns, but to see if there's room for a new dynamic on your terms. Because if your intention behind breaking no contact is to get them back, you're still placing your happiness in their hands. But if your intention is rooted in peace, detachment, and clarity, they'll feel that energy shift immediately. That's what makes your message powerful. It's not the words, it's the energy behind them. People underestimate how magnetic it is when someone reaches out from a place of calm confidence. There's no begging, no awkward tension, no emotional manipulation, just a simple message that says, I'm whole with or without you. That kind of presence is rare, and that's exactly what makes it irresistible. But to get to that point, you need to spend the no contact period investing in your growth. Read more. Reflect more, journal your feelings, reconnect with your passions, surround yourself with people who uplift you, build a version of yourself that doesn't need fixing, because that version doesn't need them to complete you. And here's the irony, the less you need them, the more they'll feel the pull. People can sense when you've outgrown your old self. They can sense when you no longer crave their attention. That's when curiosity kicks in. That's when they wonder how you became so calm, so collected, so radiant. They'll start asking questions in their head. Did they move on? Do they even care? How are they so okay without me? That's when the dynamic begins to shift. Not because you said something powerful, but because you became someone powerful. And that transformation speaks volumes. If you reach out before that transformation is complete, you rob yourself of that power. You show up as the same version they walked away from, or the same version that once begged for love, for clarity, for closure. But when you wait, when you truly heal, you don't need to chase. You become the one they remember, the one they regret, the one they took for granted and now want back. So if you're still wondering, should I break no contact now? Ask yourself this, am I doing it because I miss them? Or because I've outgrown the version of myself that needed them? If your answer is rooted in pain, wait. But if your answer is rooted in peace, power, and clarity, that's when you know you're ready, not to beg, not to impress, but to stand tall in your truth and let the silence you once held speak through your strength. Your silence is not just absence, it's power. When you go silent after a breakup or emotional fallout, it creates space. And in that space, your value begins to echo louder than anything you could have said. Silence, when used with purpose, makes people feel the weight of your absence in ways that words never can. It removes the emotional noise, the back and forth arguments, the pleading, the justifications, all the things that people learn to tune out. What's left is stillness. And in that stillness, the other person is forced to sit with their thoughts, to wonder, to overthink, to feel the sudden emptiness where your energy used to be. We often underestimate how impactful presence is until it's gone. When you're always available, always explaining, always trying to fix things, you make yourself predictable. You become the emotional safety net they don't have to earn anymore. But the moment you stop responding, the moment you stop showing up for someone who expected you to always be there, the dynamic shifts. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects back everything they didn't appreciate. Every good morning text, every time you listened, every time you forgave when you shouldn't have. Suddenly, all of it becomes clear to them, not because you reminded them, but because they feel the void. Silence treated as curiosity first, then doubt, and eventually regret. At first, they might think you're just being dramatic. They may even convince themselves that you'll come back like always. But as days go by and you remain quiet, a new thought starts to form. What if they've actually moved on? That question hits harder than any long message you could have sent, because now the imagination takes over. They begin to question your emotions, your intentions, your loyalty, and most importantly, your absence. They replay conversations, moments, and mistakes, trying to analyze what went wrong and if you're still thinking about them. This mental loop created by your silence becomes more painful and obsessive the longer it lasts. The beauty of silence is that it cannot be argued with. When you're silent, there's no debate to win, no emotion to react to, no drama to distract them from the truth. Your quietness forces them to confront themselves. And depending on their level of maturity, that confrontation will either push them to self-reflect or drive them crazy with unresolved thoughts. Either way, you win. Because silence filters people. The ones who genuinely care will start to question their actions and reach out, not because you begged them to, but because they realized they were losing something valuable. The ones who don't care, they were never worth breaking your silence for anyway. But the real reason silence works so effectively isn't because it punishes them. It's because it protects you. It gives you time to process your own emotions without their influence. It shields you from saying things you'll later regret. It gives you clarity. And once you stop chasing closure from someone else, you begin creating closure for yourself. That's the most powerful place to be. When your peace no longer depends on their explanations. When you no longer need to be heard in order to feel understood. And silence also resets the emotional balance. In a relationship or breakup where one person was constantly explaining, giving, or chasing, there's a power imbalance. By going silent, you take your energy back. You stop bleeding emotionally for someone who didn't value your effort. And ironically, the less you say, the more they hear, because in silence, they're left with their own thoughts. And those thoughts can be loud, especially when guilt, loss, or regret begin to kick in. Think about this. When someone expects you to beg, call, text, or check up on them, and you don't, it rewires their entire view of you. They start to question how replaceable they really are. They begin to wonder if you've found someone else, if you're happier now, if you ever really needed them to begin with. That discomfort grows each day, and it's entirely self-generated. You didn't have to do anything, just remain silent. Now, this doesn't mean you're playing games or being manipulative. Silence is only powerful when it's authentic, when it comes from a place of growth, not revenge. When you choose not to speak, not to react, and not to explain yourself anymore, you're sending a clear message. I respect myself enough to walk away from anything that costs me my peace. That kind of boundary speaks louder than any monologue ever could. And when you finally do speak again, the weight of your words will carry more force, because they'll know you don't speak out of habit, you speak with intention. Your voice will feel different, your presence will feel earned. And if they want you back, they'll realize they have to work for it. Because now they know you're no longer the version of yourself who needed to be heard. You're the version who became powerful in silence. And that's what makes them come back begging. Before you even think about breaking no contact, you need to become someone they don't recognize anymore. Someone whose presence feels brand new, elevated, and untouchable. Because the truth is, if you return as the same version of yourself they left, the same version who cried, begged, or waited by the phone, they won't feel the need to take you seriously. People don't regret losing what they think they can still access. They regret losing what they believe they can never have again. And that's exactly why your glow up needs to happen before you reach out, not after. Rebuilding your image isn't just about looking better, although appearance does play a role. It's about reinventing your energy, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak about yourself, the way you walk into a room. It's about healing the parts of you that used to tolerate emotional crumbs and becoming someone who now demands the whole table, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It comes from doing the inner work while you're silent. It's the result of self-reflection, brutal honesty, and personal growth. You stop asking, why did they treat me that way? And start asking, why did I stay when they did? That shift in mindset changes everything. Because now you're not trying to get them back from a place of pain. You're rising from a place of power. You're not looking for validation. You're becoming validation. You're not waiting for someone to choose you. You've already chosen yourself. And when you re-enter their life, if you even choose to, you walk in as someone they have to earn all over again, not someone who's waiting to be rescued. Think about how differently people respond to someone who glows after the breakup. Someone who looks healthier, happier, more successful, more grounded. They begin to second-guess their decisions. They start comparing your progress to their own stagnation. They feel that shift, and it hits them in ways they didn't expect. Because they remember the old you, the one who made them feel like the center of the universe, and now they're watching you become your own universe. That kind of transformation stings, especially when it comes from the very person they underestimate. This glow up isn't about showing off. It's about rising above. It's not revenge. It's not manipulation. It's elevation. It's the quiet decision to improve your life, not because you're trying to make someone jealous, but because you finally realized how much you were holding yourself back for someone who didn't see your worth. And now you see it. And once you do, it changes the way you present yourself to the world. Start by investing in your appearance, not for them, but for you. Change your hairstyle, revamp your wardrobe, start working out, take care of your skin. The smallest shifts in appearance can boost your self-respect, and self-respect is magnetic. Then go deeper, work on your mindset, read, learn, grow, develop emotional control. Stop reacting to everything. Let people feel your distance and composure. When they realize they no longer have emotional control over you, they feel that loss hard. Next, build a life that excites you. Start a new project. Pick up a hobby you abandoned. Reconnect with friends who bring you joy. Post your progress, not your pain. Let them see that you didn't just survive the storm, you built a new life in its aftermath. That's the version of you they never saw coming. That's the version they won't be able to forget. And here's what makes this so powerful. When you reach out after that transformation, your energy speaks before your words do. They'll sense it in your tone, your body language, your confidence. They'll notice the way you no longer seem desperate to prove anything. You'll ask how they are, not because you miss them, but because you're curious from a distance, from a place of strength. And that calm, collected presence, and that's what makes people chase. Because people don't chase the familiar, They chase the unfamiliar. They chase what feels like a mystery, what feels slightly out of reach. So give them that. Become a version of yourself that makes them think, how did I ever let that go? Not through games or ego, but through undeniable growth. And if they do come back, and they usually do, don't fall into old patterns. Don't shrink yourself to make them comfortable again. The new version of you must have boundaries, standards, a clear understanding that access to your time, your heart, and your energy is a privilege, not a default setting. That's when you hold real power, because now you don't need them to come back. You get to decide if they're even worthy of being part of your new story. So rebuild your image with intention, let your silence do its work, and when you return, do it as the version of yourself that's no longer seeking approval, but one who already knows their value. That's when they beg, not because you asked for it, but because your growth demanded it. If you decide to break no contact, it must be on your terms, not theirs. That means the decision should come from a place of clarity, not confusion, from strength, not longing. You don't break no contact because you miss them, feel weak, or hope they've changed. You do it when you're no longer emotionally attached to the outcome, when their response doesn't determine your peace. If you still feel the need for validation, if you're secretly hoping they'll say all the right things and fix what's broken, you're not ready. The perfect moment to reach out is when you genuinely don't care whether they respond or not, because your power no longer depends on them. Most people break no contact out of emotion, not intention. They think it's time because the silence is getting hard, because they keep seeing signs, or because a song reminded them of the good times. But emotional triggers aren't reasons, they're traps. They pull you back into patterns you work so hard to escape. That's why timing is everything. Not according to the calendar, but according to your growth. The right time to break no contact is when their presence or absence no longer affects your identity. When you've returned to yourself fully. When you're no longer acting from the wounds they left behind. When you're truly ready, the idea of reaching out won't come with anxiety, desperation, or overthinking. It will feel neutral, calm, clear. You won't spend hours drafting the perfect message or wondering how they'll interpret your words. You'll speak directly, not to get a reaction, but to express yourself from a grounded place. And, ironically, that's when they're most likely to feel drawn to you, because your energy will have shifted. You won't be the same person who once begged for love. You'll be someone who found love within themselves. And that energy, it's rare, it's powerful, it's unforgettable. Another sign you're ready is when you've accepted every possible outcome. If you break no contact and they don't respond, will you still feel at peace? If they respond but nothing changes, will you stay grounded? If they come back but offer the same unhealthy dynamic, will you walk away without hesitation? These are the questions you must answer before making any move, because breaking no contact isn't about getting them back. It's about seeing clearly them. It's about giving yourself the chance to observe, not chase, to evaluate, not react, to reclaim your narrative regardless of theirs. And when you do reach out, you do it with control. No long messages, no emotional essays, no "I just wanted to say" introductions. Keep it simple. Let your words match your new self. Direct, intentional, emotionally composed. A message as small as "hope you're well" can carry enormous weight when it comes from the right energy, because it's not about the words, it's about who's saying them. And if they feel that shift, they'll know something is different. You're no longer available in the same way. You're no longer desperate for connection. You've grown into someone who chooses, not pleads. The beauty of waiting for the right moment is that you give yourself time to rebuild your standards. The old you may have tolerated mixed signals, accepted apologies without change, or begged for love in the name of loyalty. But the new you knows better. You've healed, you've reflected, you've learned that love without respect is just emotional dependency. And when you come back into their life, You carry that lesson like armor. They'll see it in your boundaries, in your tone, in your ability to walk away at the first sign of old patterns. That's what makes them nervous. That's what makes them regret. Because when you act from a place of power, they realize they no longer hold it. And when they feel that shift, they either rise to meet your standards or they fall away completely. Either way, you win. Because you didn't return to chase them. You returned to test them, to see if they've changed, to see if what you once wanted still aligns with who you've become. That's the difference between reacting emotionally and moving with intention. One leaves you empty, the other leaves you empowered. So don't be in a rush to reconnect. Let the silence teach you what words never could. Let the space between you magnify your worth. And when the moment finally feels right, when you know deep down that your emotions aren't driving the decision, you'll reach out not because you need to, but because you can. That freedom, that emotional detachment, is what makes your message hit differently. It's not about getting them to beg. It's about showing them that the version of you they once knew is gone. And the new version? She's not chasing. She's choosing.